who was dealing with my body, and not just because of the fact that there's such a high mortality rate in America for Black women, but also because of COVID, right? Understanding that I could have my baby in the safety of my own home was phenomenal for me. And so I did the research. I invested in a doula. I invested in midwives. And I was super happy with my team and geared up. And I had this amazing birth plan. And I purchased a pool and was ready to do a water birth in my house. And then towards the end of my pregnancy in the third trimester, I discovered that I had something called polyhydramnios. And polyhydramnios is essentially when your AFI, your amniotic fluid index, is too high. The standard range for amniotic fluid, or your AFI, is typically between 8 and 20. Mine was at about a 37, and eventually it got up to about a 42, 41 or 42. And at 35 weeks, I was measuring at 41 weeks. So that's a woman who's gone past her pregnancy term and is now like going into the range of being like way too big and the baby's overdue. So at 35 weeks, I was measuring as someone whose baby was overdue. And to hear that and how my pregnancy just went left was a huge shocker for me. I had no morning sickness. I had no complications. At 20 weeks, I was doing perfectly fine. Everything was great. And then one day I woke up with this sharp pain, called my midwives, went to the hospital, and they say to me, hey, like, this is what's happening. And at some point, I had to have emergency surgery, I guess, because I think delivering your child naturally is the way to go. But I had to have an emergency delivery with my baby because I was told that there was a possibility that I might lose her if I don't take her out now. I could lose her next week if I wait any longer. And in my research, I know that there are scare tactics that doctors use to get you to do a cesarean. I know that there are certain things that they say, and there's a certain window that they have when it comes to delivering a baby. So if you watch The Business of Being Born, you'll see that typically doctors have shifts of like, they want to leave at 5 p.m. So they'll try to rush and induce you. And if the baby's not coming in time, they'll recommend a cesarean. Or if it's later on in the night, they'll kind of do the same thing. There's also the risk of the oxygen and blood flow getting to the baby once that Pitocin is introduced into your body. And then they recommend the epidural. The two kind of counteract, and they don't necessarily work well together. And so once you get that Pitocin to induce the labor and you're in, an extensive amount of pain, they'll recommend the epidural. And then that epidural will then mess with the oxygen flow. And now the baby's having trouble, so they can't breathe, and they, recommend a cesarean. Where am I going with this? I just think that in the series of my pregnancy and my delivery and now postpartum, I find myself having to advocate for myself so much. I had to have those tough questions or tough conversations with my doctors and really like put them in like a corner almost to figure out what was going on and what I needed to know, because no one really trains you on how to be a mother or be pregnant. It's kind of just something that happens, and then you got to go with the flow. Like, no one tells you what it's going to look like. And so you just have to figure it out. And I think for me, I just want to make sure that I'm a resource for all of the women and all of the mamas. And this is so timely because we just passed Mother's Day, but I want to make sure that I'm a resource for the women in my community, be it virtual or, in person. I just want to make sure that I am sharing my story because maybe this can help someone else. Advocate for yourself and know when to say no. Don't let doctors tell you what to do with your body. Do your research and figure out what you need to do for yourself, because they're not going to care about you as much as you care about you. And that's what I've discovered. So that's the first part of this journey. In postpartum, because of this very traumatic birthing experience of also almost losing my life and almost losing my baby, I did go through postpartum depression. I managed to kind of move through it and act as though I was okay, but I wasn't okay. I'm strong, so I was able to kind of like psych myself up and get okay, but I wasn't okay in the beginning, and there was a lot of stress behind, okay, I almost lost the baby. Is there a risk of me losing her again now that she's here? Am I going to be okay? Like, what's going on? There's this stress between the fact that I did not get the birth plan that I want to now having to navigate and look at things and say, like, why did this happen to me? I consider myself to be a pretty good person. I'm a human. All humans make mistakes, but I think for the most part, I'm a pretty good person. So, God, why did this happen to me? I don't do drugs. I haven't had an alcoholic beverage in 2 years. Why did this happen to me? So, after having the baby, I want to say 2 months after, I actually got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder called vitiligo. And after 2 months, I didn't get diagnosed actually. I diagnosed myself because, again, doctors aren't necessarily going to advocate for you and tell you what's going on with your body. So the story about that, for some reason, I guess maybe the hormone imbalance of me coming down from being, having a baby and all the stress that was related to that, I guess it triggered me and did something to my body. And so I had like this aggressive rash on my hand, and when it went away, my hand started getting a bit lighter. Hi, everyone. My hand started getting a bit lighter, and I saw some discoloration. And I went to a dermatologist, tried to be extremely proactive about it. And I said to her, hey, do you know what this is? Can we try to figure it out? I want to make sure that this doesn't spread and it doesn't get any worse. This dermatologist told me that what I had was post-inflammatory hypopigmentation, and that it would go away in about 6 months to a year, and that it wouldn't spread. And I said, okay, thank you. Taking what she said, she prescribed some topical steroid for me. And I said, okay, yeah, fine. I trust you. I'll go home and try to use this. It's very difficult to use when you're exclusively nursing a child. You don't really want to put much stuff on your hands. So took what she said, kind of listened to her. She's the expert, right? Second appointment, I go back and I realize that it is spreading. And I say to her, like, what is this? She says, I don't think it's vitiligo. I think it's still the post-inflammatory. Let me give you another steroid and come back in about a month or two, and I think you'll be fine. At that point, I went to another doctor. I went to a doctor, and I said, hey, can you do some blood work? Can you see what's going on? She said to me, well, with this, you have to go to the dermatologist. So they're in the same practice, kind of giving me the back and forth. And I say to her, I say, listen, I think I know what's going on with my body. I just need you to check for this and this. The doctor proceeds to say to me, no, it's not that. It wouldn't happen that fast. I don't think it's that. You should just go back and get another opinion. I decide that at this point, I'm going to take my own health into my health into my own hands, because clearly these doctors are not advocating for me. Clearly, they don't necessarily care about what happens to me. It's a struggle enough being a Black woman in America. And to know that you're not even protected by the doctors or the people that say that they're going to protect you is rough. At this point, again, I decide to do my research and I find a doctor that specializes in skin of color. I look everything up. I start working on things on my own. I start changing my diet. I start, looking into herbs and medicines and vitamins and different things to help heal myself and heal my body, because it's a healing journey. And I go to this doctor and I say, hey, I think this is what I have. What do you think? And she says, you're right. That is what you have. And at that point, I broke down and I started crying because I said to myself, for the past 2.5 months, I've been going to this 2 doctors about 3 or 4 times, and they've been telling me no. Yeah. Yes, Beats by G Scale. Unfortunately, their practice is medicine. Yeah. And what they do is they put a Band-Aid on the situation. So they continue to try to give me steroids just to solve the symptom, but not necessarily get to the root of it. And so this doctor tells me that I'm right. I guess I'm a good diagnoser, whatever it may be. And I say to her, thank you, but that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that, the doctors before could have caught this in the beginning and potentially did something then instead of letting it persist and spread. And so started doing more research. She prescribed something and has now recommended me to another practice. And after using what she recommended, I realized, okay, I need to do more. Like I need to figure this out, because right now what the solution that she provided is also not working. I find another doctor. And right now, again, I'm in the healing process, but I'm continuing to make sure that I'm doing my research, finding alternative solutions, and looking at what's going to benefit me and my body. And God knows if what I'm doing is going to work, and all I can do is be hopeful and optimistic. But what I realize is it wasn't until I pushed enough and found the right people and advocated for myself that I got the answers that I needed, which is, yes, this is what is going on with you, and now do the work to treat it. I don't know, again, who this is going to help today. And I'm hoping that, someone hears this and someone is going to make sure that they're advocating for themselves and not necessarily just listening to what the doctors say. On top of having a doula through pregnancy, I also recommend finding an herbalist. I did meet with an herbalist as well who gave me some recommendations, and I started looking into like Dr. Sebi and thank you so much, and finding, solutions. I found his shop with one of my girlfriends, the Fig Tree, and was able to get some, things there that are helping me on this healing journey. But ultimately, it took me really doing the research and doing a lot for myself. I also had a dermatologist. I think I've met with about 5 at this point. I had a dermatologist tell me that nutrition doesn't really have much to do with this, and I don't really feed into that. And I was just like, that makes sense, because you spend all of 45 minutes in your entire medical, school of going over nutrition. So you're not going to make recommendations there. And when you think about pharma and you think about medicine, like, this is how they make money. And so they're going to continue to give you patches and Band-Aids versus giving you a solution to get to the root cause. So I'll keep you guys updated on this journey and what's going on this side. But one thing I can say is what's given me a peace of mind is my ability to do my own research and find things for myself, because ultimately health is wealth. You can't really attain wealth without your health. If you're not here, how wealthy can you be? How much of a legacy can you leave? So just make sure that you're investing in yourself. You are advocating for yourself. And I can't stress this enough. Just don't take what they say as Bible. Do your research. I think that's it. If anyone wants to hop on and talk, you definitely can. Thank you, Beats by G Scale and the Mind Investor. Thank you for being here with me. Love Shanti, girl. I'm gonna cry. We've just been, yes, you are your best advocate. you've been so supportive in this process. Like, we've just been riding together in this holistic healing journey, and I'm so grateful for you. But yeah, definitely do your best to heal yourself holistically, because Western medicine isn't always going to do it. Hubby, thank you. You've also been super supportive. There are some recommendations I want to make. So in the beginning, I did mention watching a documentary. For all my mamas to be, definitely take a look at The Business of Being Born. It is on Amazon. It's a documentary by Ricki Lake. It's just so impactful. If you are not in an emergency situation with delivery, there's no need to go to a hospital. Like, you should look into midwifery care and also look into like natural birth, because hospitals are designed for high risk situations. At least that's my perspective. Unless your baby is breached, deliver naturally. Our bodies are designed to do this. One of the things that I learned in that documentary was that the method of women laying on their backs kind of came from something that was done. I don't even know if it was like the 1800s or the 1920s or what, but at one point they used to have women tied up to their beds, and they used to do like give them some type of drug that like made them, it's not even delirious, but go crazy almost. And they strapped them down to beds so that they could deliver that way. And they would leave them there for days until they delivered in like their feces and their urination. And at some point, they also started using drugs that before epidurals to, I guess, try to alleviate the pain for women, which led to disabilities in children. And that's why some kids back in the days came out with deformities, missing an arm or a leg. They were testing things out. And they did such a good job at making the midwives look so bad that they got the care of women to be switched into their care, which is why now women go to the hospitals to deliver with OBGYNs who are actually surgeons. Midwives are the ones that do this. They're the ones that deliver babies. So if you can get a midwife, get a midwife. If you can get a doula who's going to support you, get a doula. Invest in a doula. Even if you don't go through a midwife, invest in a doula, because they're also going to advocate for you in the hospitals. So I highly recommend that. My doula was phenomenal, and she was supportive and there with me every step of the way. So invest in a doula if you can. So that's one. Another resource that I would recommend is a book right now. My husband actually, as he put those black hearts, he purchased it for me. It's called Melanin Empath. I'm definitely an empath through and through, which is why I think certain things like impact me. And so it teaches you how to guard your energy and protect yourself, and certain stones to use, and also just like certain practices to implement so that other people's energies aren't affecting you. So I highly recommend that book, Melanin Empath. Those are the two that I have for today, on top of just getting a doula and looking into midwife care. Highly recommend it. Wouldn't trade any of it, because it was my midwife who recommended that I go back to the hospital to check on myself when I called her in the middle of the night in pain. I wouldn't have been able to get my OBGYN. So highly recommend them. Super Mama Birth Services, they were actually my midwives. So that's that group. And then Cherie So Fast was my doula. And they are outstanding women, phenomenal. So if you are a mama expecting and you're here in the New York area, look into them. And I think that's it. Honestly, just advocate for yourself, advocate for your health. I will have another, series of this, or talk about this a little bit further in terms of some of the things that I'm doing to advocate for myself. But yeah, this is me. It's tough. I'm watching my body transition and certain things happening to me, which is like crazy, because I'm not accustomed to that. But we'll get through it. Just faith and positivity, and Yeah, definitely going through the natural route next time around, Lord willing. Yes, yes, Shanti. But yeah, that's it for tonight. I think we're going to be hopping on Clubhouse around 9:30. And so we'll be talking there. It's definitely going to be more of an open discussion. So excited to hear about anyone's story in terms of like your experience with the Western medicine and ways that you've had to advocate for yourself. Wow, 5 kids and no clue how much stress could be avoided. Yes, yes, so much stress. Watch The Business of Being Born, guys. And Mind Investor, excited to have you on tonight. Hopefully your gorgeous queen can hop on too in Clubhouse. Shanti, hoping to see you there. Hello, Nasir. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. Hope you're doing well, love. Thank you guys so much for your time. I always say that time is the most valuable gift, and to even just have a moment of your time is phenomenal. So thank you guys so much, and hopefully we can catch up soon, and I'll talk to you all later on Clubhouse. Bye. I don't even know how to end this thing. All right, YouTube. So that was my, health advocate on display. Hopefully it was beneficial for you guys as well. Sorry that I didn't click live in the beginning, but just want to make sure that I share those resources, and hopefully it helps someone out there. So yeah, we're here. This is the way. If you do watch this and you catch it before 9:30, definitely join us on Clubhouse. Bye, guys.